Facts from the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in at April 28th, 2021, and the stock market is going to go crazy tomorrow, and there's actually a real reason why. And I got 3 stacks that I'm looking at coming in at tomorrow, along with 3 earnings surprisers. But today was a very interesting day, mostly because it was somewhat very boring. You saw a lot more action, in today's range was surprisingly a little bit bigger than yesterday's, and that caught some people off guard. But overall, today you didn't see much. There was a lot of interesting pieces of data. Economic data came out. We got to hear a little bit more on guidance with policy, but overall, the market didn't do anything, and even a lot of commodities move, and then all of a sudden, end of the day, the bond market started to move. But now we have Powell tomorrow, and what happened with bonds today puts us at a very, very key level. So we got a lot to talk about. I want to go over all of the earnings that happened. We need to discuss that and how that leads into the rest of the week. You're still getting a lot of big companies. All of the stuff that happened today, all of the stuff that we're looking at coming into tomorrow, the plays that we made, I took profits on some. We added some new plays today, and then there is a couple of plays that I'm looking at for tomorrow. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes for open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free 99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/the stock market. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch the watch list come to life. And yes, if you measure gains and losses in terms of Toyota Camrys, then yeah, we're the place to be. And the most important thing you need to do, post your watch below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything, post them below and source that info. Chat it to chat, baby. So right off the bat, the earnings were very, very good today, and based on the reports that we saw, they're going to continue to be good. That is pretty much the basis that we're getting here, but the market does not really care. And why I'm saying this is with what I'm about to show you, but it seems like policy is the main key, and what happened with the bonds today right before Powell, that is going to be the key, and Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow is going to be very, very important. So what is that main factor, and why am I saying this all? Again, Microsoft, Visa, Pinterest, AMD, almost every single company. You're going to get Apple and a few other big names tomorrow, but even the companies that reported after hours in this morning, they all did good, and the ones that went down, they went down not because they missed, because they just didn't do even better than what was already expected. So a lot of people were worried about this earnings, comparing the baseline effects of last year. You are seeing that concern kind of go away. It looks like these companies did good, but now what do we see here with bonds? If you notice where bonds closed today, it was a pretty bad day on TLT. TLT went down. That means bond yields went up, and they finally started to pick up a little bit more velocity the day before Powell, and now they're at this key range. I'm pretty sure this is about 1.75 on the 10-year. So this is going to be the key now, because over this last month, we've got to see the range of bonds. We've seen where it's stuck on the low side and now at the high side. So depending on what Powell says tomorrow, it is either going to send us back into rates increasing, and then this could weigh on the growth stocks, or it might break us out of the range, or at least it could justify being calm. But now I do not see this as a coincidence with Powell tomorrow. So this is going to be the key. And depending on Powell and then the follow-up by Biden, that is really what could make the market go crazy here. So we're going to keep that on watch. But overall, the earnings have been good. I'm expecting most of them to be good. Again, we could still get a Grim Reaper, but chances are we won't at this point. It doesn't seem like any of the big companies have anything negative going on, but we will see. And even today, the economic data was really, really strong. You got the real estate data. You got more data today. Consumer confidence was through the roof. Everything is looking pretty decent. But now, if you saw how today played out, you didn't really see the market move. And coming into tomorrow, I'm expecting the market to move like that up until Powell. And then even after Powell, we won't get any moves. But essentially, the market didn't do anything even as that data came out. Even European close and all that, the market was firmly waiting on some of these bigger companies. So bringing this into the rest of the week, watch for Thursday, Friday, after we get Apple and Facebook tomorrow, then Amazon on Thursday, and then some of the other bigger but smaller companies. That is when we should start to see a lot more bigger movements. And then I think that is going to set us up into the next month and everything. And then by then, a big majority of the more important companies for earnings will be out of the way. And then you might even see some more continuation. So this may seem like we're doing a lot of waiting. It may be hard to identify who the winners and losers are, but what I'm really starting to see here, even the news that we're getting, we're waiting on policy. There is actually just a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on right now. What I would be watching for here is for the reopening stocks and then some of those growth stock winners that actually held up, had good earnings. Watch for those to collide, because that is pretty much going to be the next leg up. We're watching this market widen and broaden out, but eventually we're going to start seeing another leg up in the S&P and the markets in general, or have a melt up mode until something bad happens. This is where I think the bright spot is going to be. There's going to be a lot of reopening stocks that still have some room to go. They had their first leg, chilled out a little bit. Now, once that collides with everything else, the market gets kind of level with everything. You should start to see everything start moving again. So that is what I'm going to be watching for coming into tomorrow, the rest of the week, all the earnings to be able to identify those. But now, as far as tomorrow, you're going to get Apple after hours, Facebook, Qualcomm, Teladoc, eBay, ServiceNow, MGM, Grubhub. That says GRUN, but that's Grubhub. Line Technologies, O'Reilly Auto Parts, Logitech, United Rentals, Molina Health, and then Cheesecake Factory. There's obviously going to be more names reporting. I'm just pointing out some of the obvious after-hour ones that I like, and then even when I get into the plays here, I'll show you some of the surprisers. So post any option trades below, but otherwise, the main ones are going to be Apple and Facebook tomorrow. You could kind of see how Microsoft, AMD, and Visa were today, but after we get those and then the bigger companies in the mornings on Thursday, it's really just going to be Amazon left, and then doesn't mean earnings is over, but these are the companies that weigh very, very heavily at the market. And if you watched even after hours today with all the earnings, you saw some decent moves, but the market didn't really move much. So this goes back to what I was saying yesterday, where the market broadening is allowing us to not really feel things as much. That's why some of the bigger names could move, but it doesn't necessarily have to move the market. Or if the market moves big, it's not necessarily moving some of those other names. So keep your eye out for that. Let the earnings schedule run through. Pay attention to the effects. Keep an eye on the policy. There's a lot of moving parts, so I hope you're ready, but that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I got 3 different plays, or pretty much 5. I'm going to go over the earnings surprisers and the ones that I think could surprise. But as far as the first 2 plays, and the first one I made, this one is not earnings related, but Johnson & Johnson got some negative news, kind of, but the market didn't respond again. Remember, they got taken off because of the blood clots. Just this weekend, they got reintroduced, and now just today, middle of the day, there was a news announcement that there was 2 more cases of the blood clot. So I decided to go with the small play. I wanted to get some of the downside, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't spend too much money and really just playing any bad headline news. So that one was kind of interesting, but you could see the logic here with what I'm talking about. As far as the play, I just grabbed one of the next week 155s for 16 cents, or excuse me, I grabbed 2 of them, spent about $32. I believe they held the same value the whole time, so we'll see how that one plays out, but I just wanted some exposure to that. I thought that was an interesting piece of news, and kind of tying it into everything I'm saying. Watch for everything with earnings growth, but now that reopening trade, the vaccine trade, a lot of biotechs have been ripping. We'll go over some, but the companies directly related to that, they've kind of been getting more juice recently, so I wanted some exposure, but also wanted to keep it small. So that is going to be the first play. As far as the second play, I really like the Microsoft. I'm holding one of the contracts. I did sell one of the other ones today. So if you guys remember, we bought that one Microsoft 275 and I sold out one of them for $1.83. We spent about 60 cents. And some people have asked, they're like, wait, when do you buy these trades? I don't see you. I hear you announced that you sold it live. We actually got this trade about a month ago, March 31st. This is the power of keeping it small. I play with small amounts, $60. You get to swing it, use time to your advantage. That's why we tell you guys to stay up to date with the watch list. See us on stream. If you miss it, you get your stream alerts. But we got this play ahead of the earnings hype. We held it all the way through. I got to sell one today, got my initial investment back plus profit, and then I got to hold another one. Again, same thing with those Intels. We sold one at the beginning of the week. I did trim another one today, but you could see right here, we got those Intels about 2-3 weeks ago and spent about 45 cents. So these are little mini swing trades, but that's what I did with Microsoft. I still have exposure to it, so I want to watch how that plays out, and you could see the drop here, but it looks like a big drop, and this is why I think they'll have a good continuation, because they beat on everything. So even their cloud, the Azure, and all of these big growth factors, they keep growing at a 50% clip, which is amazing fundamentally, and this has been one of their bigger drivers of growth. The reason why Microsoft dropped is because a lot of analysts just were expecting a really, really big revenue beat. So even though they did beat on the revenue, they didn't beat at a really, really large pace. So that's what people kind of were worried about, but they beat on every metric, top and bottom line. It was an overall killer earnings, and it just tying it into the context of those baseline effects, comparing the large growth from a year ago, they're still keeping it up. So that was a very, very good sign, and that's why I really want to watch the continuation for tomorrow. So that is going to be the second play, and then finally the last 3. I don't have any plays on these. I may not make a play on them. I'm just kind of throwing out my thesis here. I like to do this with earnings. I've watched a lot of these companies for over a decade. I'm really, really big on earnings. I know a lot of people don't like it. Earnings is gambling to a degree. It's pretty much a coin toss. You got to be wise about it. There's no real predicting it. And hopefully you know too that option trading is extremely risky. You can't lose almost financial advice, no financial advice, occasional purpose, only thing of day. So be very, very careful. But these are some you could see. I like to point these out. These are just companies that have the ability to move big. So 3 of those companies that I'm going to be watching tomorrow: ALGN, Align Technology, ServiceNow, and then URI. I think URI is the least likely to move. The other 2 can move, but they might have big premiums and it might be priced in. I haven't looked at any of them, so just going to take it into earnings, see what the premiums and market are like tomorrow. If there is an opportunity to play it cheap, I'll go for it, but you got to watch the budget, got to control the balance, can't play too many, so I will have to decide, but we will see. Hopefully this gives you some information to look at and let me know how it goes. But as far as everything else, I'm going to be watching all those. The Microsoft, watch AMD, they killed it on their earnings too, and this is why I'm saying with all of these companies, every company has done good so far. If they are even dropping, it's pretty much because they're missing on smaller metrics or one small portion, or they just didn't grow at an exceptional rate even though they beat most of the estimates. So this is setting up some interesting scenarios, even like AMD, and just factoring it on the growth scale. It might come back up here. It breaks through the $90 level. There's a lot of eyes on these, so just pay attention to winners and losers. Watch them. Here's ServiceNow, like I brought up. It doesn't really look much on the 1-month chart, but you can see here leading into 2020, before that, it had some pretty big earnings moves here and there, but sometimes if it doesn't hit, you're going to spend a lot on the premium, but this stock can actually move, so watch them. Again, United Rental. This is one that just did not move that much for a long time and then broke out. That's why I think it could have that ability. And then Align Technologies, you could just look at the chart. It is gappy. That is one that usually does move big. I can't believe this thing's at $600. Jeez, that's crazy. But watch them, watch Novax. They shot up today. I really wanted to play this one a while ago. It just was so expensive, high option premium. It's one you missed. But Biden was talking about the mask mandate and what they're planning to do with people who are vaccinated. He did mention Novax in relation to India. And then there was another thing about Novax meeting with South Korea or India, something of that nature. But the stock was already up 10%. After that, it shot up another 6%. So watch them. Watch any of the vaccine stocks. I mean, this is one thing I would keep an eye out for. Vaxart, we still have these shares. I don't know if you guys remember this wild ride. We've held it, but even more volume today, more positive news. There has been a lot of activity this week and last week with these biotech vaccine companies, so watch for that trade to kind of come back, but be very, very careful. This is not a hype stock. This is not this and that. That's what gets even dangerous, because now people are blending hype stocks with biotechs. We have a really informative video on this channel. If you search the Trading Fraternity Biotechs, I made it years ago, and you could see my whole process as to how to find biotechs. But at the end of the day, any of these biotechs are risky. We've seen a lot of movements, a lot of 50% movers, and these companies are getting stage 2, stage 3 approvals. Some are related to the vaccine, all of that, but these stocks carry their own risk, so you got to keep that in mind and be wise about it. But watch them. Watch Pinterest. They missed on user growth or user expectations. Again, they already had a lot of downside guidance or warning ahead of this, so this could kind of be ugly tomorrow. I want to watch it, but this one might be a good continuation, or it could be a really good bounce. Either way, I think you're going to get premiums killed on this, and I think you're going to get a lot of movement, so watch them. Microsoft, like we said. Watch Facebook. That's the one I had up on this chart earlier, but they popped up after hours with the Google earnings, and again, if you didn't see Google, $50 billion buyback, they killed it again. They didn't move as much. Remember, last time they surprised, but the fact that they are still just continuing this trend, you could see it. It was one thing to kind of be up here compared to 2020. That trend is continuing, and if you don't remember their last earnings, it was huge, so I want to see if this gets any steam, but they've kind of been the leader in behemoth, so that's what I think is going to get really interesting, so watch them. Again, watch that follow-up effect with Facebook. That'll be interesting. Visa had a killer earnings. They were up a lot more. They came down a little bit, but that one might be a good continuation, or watch Square as a sympathy. Watch Illumina. I made a play on this one. This one was actually pretty interesting. That's Vaxart. Here's Illumina. They had the pop. They came down. This one, you're probably going to see it move more tomorrow, but I grabbed a June 18th, $560 for $1.50. It shot up. This one is a very illiquid company. It has higher spreads, but one thing with Illumina, give it some time here. This one could kind of take off out of nowhere. Just pay attention to how it's kind of moved. It moves in some of these ranges, and then when it does get in gas mode, it could really, really go. So still like that play. It's probably going to get clapped tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. Watch Starbucks. They had earnings. They're probably not going to move much. I want to even look at them for some premium tomorrow, but they did good. Again, just typical nature of just beating and just not being through the roof, but they still did good. So watch them. Watch Ford. They had move after hours. I don't know what it is. I think it could be a bright spot to the chip manufacturing. People are saying that it looks like car companies may be a little bit closer, GM and Ford, or something with them making their electric vehicles. That was like 4 or 5 hours ago, but pretty interesting after hours move. Again, pull them up on the daily. You could kind of see how they had that drop and bounce back. So I think they're at a pretty interesting level. I think their earnings and any EV news will be very key. So watch them. And then finally, TLT is very, very important. The moves that it makes tomorrow coming into Powell, that will tell you one thing, but pretty much after Powell and then how it starts to play around this level, that is going to give us a key. I didn't think the bonds were going to do much, but it actually broke out of its recent trend, moved a little bit bigger today, and magically ended right at this resistance point. That is going to be crucial. And sure enough, the dollar's not moving. I wouldn't be surprised to watch the dollar snitch. And if it does this week, all this education should let you know. If not, I will let you know, and we'll keep our eyes peeled. But don't underestimate the importance of Powell tomorrow, and that is going to be key, and it will probably be reflected through everything, and then followed up by young Biden, baby. So I hope you're ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure you post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. You need to try your best. You don't need to be perfect, baby. But the code loves you. I love you. I'm going to see you in the morning. Let's go.